Good morning, 5th and 6th grade artists. Today we're going to be switching gears a little bit. Great job on your mandalas, by the way. We are going to be working today on practicing our shading skills as we move toward drawing things that look more real. So, speaking of that, shading is really important for creating the illusion of space. Meaning that some things are closer to you and some things are further away. It's really helpful in showing that an object is three-dimensional so that you can see all around it and it's actually, a real thing in space. Basically, the concept is value that we're working on in art. And value is the lightness or darkness of a color. So here is an example of where we're headed with this artwork. It's a bit of an abstract artwork, meaning it's not meant to really look real or like anything. This is just an artwork where we're going to be practicing our shading skills. So you'll notice in this artwork there are darker values of gray and then faded to lighter values of gray. So that's really what we're going to be working on. Let's first take a look at a value scale. So right here on this little piece of paper, you'll notice that we start at black and then it gets a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter until all the way to white. This is called value. Not like monetary value, but in art, value means the lightness or darkness of a color. Now, this is a value scale from black to white. If you had a value scale that went from red to white, think about what color would be right in the middle. If you said pink, you'd be right. Okay? So lightness or darkness of a color. Let me show you some examples where value is used in shading in artwork. So, for example, take a look at this apple. Do you notice how it looks like you could just reach out and grab it, like it's really sitting on a surface? This is all done just by using different values of white, darker to gray, until we get to the very black that's in this little area here that shows the shadow. Here's another example. I really like how this artist worked with value because they actually made little kind of curving, almost scribbly looking marks if you look really closely. But at the root of it, it's all just different values of gray, essentially. So we're going from very light to very dark, almost to black in here to show those shadowy areas. All right, so in order to be able to draw something that's more realistic, it's important for us to practice our shading skills, and this artwork is going to do that. So you will need a piece of your white project paper. You will also need a ruler and a pencil. Any kind of pencil is fine. Make sure you have an eraser because that's always handy. Now, let's say you didn't have a ruler. Another thing you could do is just to find a good, rigid, straight edge. So, for example, I have this binder right here. I don't know if you can really see it, but I know that this edge is straight. So I could, if I wanted to, use this to create a straight line if I don't have a ruler, okay? So you'll notice I can make a nice straight line using the edge of my binder. So no ruler, no problem. Make sure that you find a different straight edge. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna work right on the back here now that I've created a line already. And basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your ruler or your straight edge and you're just going to create a couple of overlapping lines. So I've got one already. Make sure I'm centering this here. And now I'm gonna make another. So you'll notice it kind of just looks like an X, okay? Now there's no real rule about how to do this. I just kind of look at it and decide where my lines need to go, okay? So I think I'll do another one right here. And I think I think that's good. You can add more, can add less, totally up to you. You are the artist, remember. All right, so shading skills. Here's what we're gonna do. At each of the corners, you're gonna start out making it really dark. So how do we do that with a pencil? We press down hard. So I'm gonna start right here at this edge, and I'm gonna press down super duper hard. Really using that pencil lead to show that dark value. So I'm gonna start out super dark. I just changed direction a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna keep it super dark as I move out here. And then I'm going to start to pick up the pressure a little bit. So now, even though it doesn't really look like it yet, I'm going a little bit lighter with my pencil. Now, as you work, if you're anything like me, if you end up like dragging the side of your hand across your paper, since it is pencil, it's a good idea to put a piece of paper underneath to keep you from smudging all over the place, and it also saves you from having to clean up after. All right, so do you notice how, I don't know if you can see that there. Yep, I guess you can. Sorry, my hair is getting into the feed here. All right, so you notice that you can see kind of a line there. I'm gonna come back and get rid of that now. So I wanna kind of, what I call feather it. So I'm just gonna kind of go lightly over it so I no longer see that edge, and I think I'm okay. Now I'm gonna go down here. And again, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of pressure. So I'm going lighter, lighter, lighter. Lighter, lighter, lighter. You'll notice that I'm making my lines all in one direction right now. And that's on purpose. It will make your values look smoother. Sometimes when you're doing value, you want to show more texture, sort of like that artist that did the rose that I showed you. But in this one, I want my values to be a little bit smoother looking. Now, what I'm noticing, if as you're shading, you start to notice a real ridge of dark to light, you need to get rid of that. So just come back and again, try to feather it out. So I'm just putting a little bit of pressure on. Okay. Until that edge kind of starts to disappear. All right, now I'm going to start to go even lighter with my lines here. And I'm going to go lighter. And if I'm creating little ridges of value, I'm going to come back and fix that in just a minute. So I'm just going to keep on going now. I'm going super light, hardly touching the paper. And then finally. So it's really shading in this way is all about pressure. The lighter you push down, the lighter your color will be. Okay, so I'm hardly pushing. Now, what you'll notice though, is that I've got quite a few little ridges in here. So what I'm gonna do now, remember before when I said we were just gonna work in one direction? Now I'm gonna work in the other direction, and I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna try to get rid of some of those edges. And it's okay if you go outside the lines like I just did. That's why we have our eraser, right? There we go. So now I'm going to come back and I'm just going to very lightly try to get rid of some of those little edges there. And I do kind of like it because it creates this sort of really cool overlapping texture. And remember, this is all about practice. So if you're feeling frustrated, that is, I mean, I'm not going to say the goal, but if you start to feel like, oh man, this is taking forever, it's okay, because that's what practice is all about, and making mistakes and having to go back and rework it and fix it and all of that. Now, another thing that's really helpful is using an eraser. And I'm going to show you that in just a second, but I want to I noticed this edge. I think I'm going to make this edge a little bit darker here. and then kind of fade it into the other part. Okay, so notice how I just switched directions back again, okay? And you can kind of just fade it out. All right, kind of liking the way that's looking. It's definitely going from dark to light. There's a little bit of a glare from the lights above me, so I don't know if you can see that. But see how it kind of looks like it's going in just because it's going dark to light? It has a really cool visual illusion here. So what I wanted to show you too is if you get to the point where, looking for a large eraser, but I'm not seeing one right now. So if you get to the point where, you know, you need to lighten something up, you can also come through with your eraser and just lightly go over it, and that will also help you. So this is called the reduction method, where you're actually taking away, okay? So you're taking away using the eraser instead of building up. All right, so I did one shape. I think I'm gonna come in and do this little central shape now, and I'm not gonna make you watch me do this entire thing. I'm just gonna show you a couple of these and then we'll move on, okay? So what I'm gonna do on this one is I'm gonna make this little corner really, really dark. And then again, I'm just gonna do the fading of the values just like I did on that one. And I'm gonna get lighter, lighter, lighter right to the edge. And what's cool about it is that it's a lot smaller than that shape that I just did, but also it now looks like this shape. There we go, light to dark. That one was a lot easier. Now, see how it looks like this shape is actually on top of this, like this might be going underneath? That's that illusion of space that I was just talking about earlier. Now I'm gonna do this one, and I think I will start up here. And again, pushing down really hard, and then going lighter, lighter. Now something else that's interesting is that depending on what type of pencil you have, you know how normally we use number 2 pencils, depending on if you have like a different, you know, pencil than number 2, or sometimes they have like letters on them, that really determines the lightness or darkness of the values that you're using. So if you have different pencils at home, that might be cool to experiment with too. I only have number 2s right here on hand at the moment. All right, now what I'm going to do is I don't like how close those two values are. So I'm going to use my eraser just very carefully on this edge to lighten it up. And then come back. All right, so each of your shapes in this design, you are going to create in that way. So I'm going to do fading here, I'm going to do fading here, fading here. You can decide where the darkness starts. Like maybe on this one, I want this edge to be my darkest and then have it fade. Maybe here, this is the darkest edge and then it's going to fade to here. So you get to decide the direction that it moves in. I just happen to choose the same direction on all of these. Let's take a look at my finished example. And so you'll notice that here, I did my darkness here. I actually also chose to do it in this corner so that it almost looked like it was coming from 2 corners at the same time. This one is going in this direction, same here. Okay, so make sure that you're leaving a little bit of a light area between your shapes if they're a similar value. And I like how this one looks with both the darks toward the middle. So anyway, experimenting with your design until it looks complete to you, okay? So you'll notice I didn't do any value here or here or here or here, because to me, it looked like the artwork was finished. Okay, and again, this is all about practicing your shading techniques because we are moving towards drawing more realistically, and this is going to be really helpful practice for what we will do later on. So that's value, lightness or darkness of a color, practicing your shading, have fun with it, and I am really looking forward to seeing what you come up with on this one. Please, when you're finished, take a photo, send it to me through email or upload to Seesaw. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at any time through email. I'd love to hear from you guys. Hope you're all doing well, and I will see you with the next video. Take care.